Welcome to INN CEO Talks. Joining me today from Sydney, Australia is Stephen Promnitz, the Managing Director and CEO of Lake Resources, which trades on the Australian Stock Exchange under the symbol LKE, on the OTC markets as LLKKF, and on the Frankfurt as LK1. Lake Resources is a clean lithium developer utilizing clean, direct extraction technology for the development of sustainable, high-purity lithium from its flagship Kachi project, as well as 3 other lithium projects in Argentina. The projects cover 200 square kilometers in a prime location within the lithium triangle, where 40% of the world's lithium is produced at the lowest possible cost. Lake's technology partner, California-based Lilac Solutions, has developed efficient and disruptive clean technology to produce sustainable, high-quality, purity lithium. High-purity lithium carbonate samples from the project show very low impurities, and this level of purity is essential to Tier 1 EV and battery makers such as VW, Daimler, BMW, and Tesla. Joining me once again is Stephen Promnitz. Stephen, welcome. Let's jump in by talking about the financing of the Kachi project from now through to production, because you're really moving along here.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk against you. So essentially, this project is indicatively financed into production. And that's because we've been able to secure support on the debt side. We've gone to export credit agencies that are prepared to finance circa 70% of the total finance that's required for the project. And that debt will be coming over a long period of time. So 10-year debt at quite low interest rates, somewhere in the 2 to 6% range, which is pretty novel for a new producer like ourselves. Furthermore, that money comes with a quasi-government seal of approval. Now, we have to do certain things to be able to actually have that debt in place. And so we're completing a definitive feasibility study, environmental social impact assessment, complete our offtake agreements. But they're things that we would do as a stay in business anyway. And then that debt will be available once we've got those things in place. Now, that debt is coming from the UK Export Finance, LKEF, and they're going to be supported by Canada's export group called EDC. Great part about that is there'll be direct lending, and we'll have 2 sovereigns lending to the project together with guarantees around a panel of international banks. So a great outcome on the debt financing side. Then on the equity side, we've just announced how our technology partner, you talked about Lilac, they are actually going to work with us and progressively earn into our flagship Kachi project and then provide circa US $50 million towards the development of that project. So come end of October, we should have somewhere around 70 to 80 million Aussie in the bank, plus this commitment from Lilac going forward of circa 50 million. And then if we have some options come in the money in June next year, that'll be an additional 75 million. And so essentially, we can now see a pathway to the entire project being financed. And what's special about this is that financing is coming from non-traditional sources. Few people go out to export credit agencies, and the fact that the bulk of that debt is going to be guaranteed, that ameliorates both the sourcing of the finance, the fact that cost of that capital is lower, it's longer duration, and it provides this government seal of approval, which also ameliorates the perception of risk in working in Argentina. Then having an equity partner who is providing our technology actually deals with the perception of risk around, does the technology work? How well does it work? Does it work at scale? They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're going to be earning in progressively, demonstrating how well that works prior to then investing. So that's a great outcome. And that money is coming from the tech sector. It's not coming from It's not coming from the energy sector or the mining sector. This is coming from the tech sector in predominantly in California. And so this is a great outcome, not just for this project, but also a way forward about how these battery materials could be potentially developed in the future. We've got a scalable project, seeing that sort of finance coming in. I think it's a real sign of the future.
Well, Stephen, I have to tell you, this is a huge jump from the last time that we talked. You've been incredibly busy. How did you, and I'm sure, because as you pointed out, these are not traditional sources of financing, how did you manage to go about being able to create this kind of interest that, as you point out, when they put their money into a project like this, they're helping to de-risk it. How were you able to do this?
So first of all, we took a view some time back that the debt financing for lithium projects was going to be difficult to source. Now, some of our peers in the development stage have just gone out and sourced all of their capital from equity. That's fine, but it's quite dilutive for shareholders. It's naturally much better if you can source debt. But because lithium isn't an actively traded commodity, it's hard to hedge, it's hard for banks to participate in it. So given that, and also the fact that we're in Argentina, we decided to go to export credit agencies. I dealt with them 20 years back in project finance. We secured the support of an intermediary out of the UK that has done many of these financings, SD Capital and GBK, Gabriel Buck. He's done many of these in Africa, in developing nations, and so they were able to have direct conversations with export credit agencies. Now, this was a competitive process. The great thing is, because export credit agencies are basically like an arm of the government, governments this calendar year want to be seen to be participating in this whole energy transition. So the timing was good. They want to be seen to be doing something about climate change, and that's where we can deliver. Not only is the lithium going into batteries for electric vehicles as part of the energy transition, but we can actually deliver a better way of doing that together with our partner Lilac. And so this was a robust financing. I mean, the returns on this project are well north of a 35% IRR, and even better with the expansion case. So it's robust financially, and it's also a great sector to invest in. Then on the equity side, we looked at the risk issues, and people have said, well, traditionally you would go to the supply chain, maybe an off-taker, somebody from the supply chain to work with you. And 12 months ago, that's what we would have done. But people kept saying to us, what about the technology? What if it doesn't work quite as well as how you say? So the best way to ameliorate that risk is have the people who are providing that technology actually co-invest in the project, and it then de-risks that project. The money that they're tapping comes from the big names, a Breakthrough Energy Fund, which is backed by the Bill Gates Foundation and amongst others. And so we're seeing that tech money coming to this sector. They've invested in the past in electric vehicles. They've invested in disruptive technologies. And so this is a whole part of a climate technology change that I think we're going to hear more about. So it's, it's groundbreaking, but it's also a lot of fun.
Well, and what does it say to investors now who are looking at Lake Resources saying, okay, is this the time that I need to get on board?
If we do comparisons with our peers, there's a couple of other companies that are also doing groundbreaking work in direct lithium extraction. One of them, Standard Lithium, recently uplisted on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker code SLI. And they're doing great work. Their technology is slightly different to ours, and they have a tail brine, but essentially it's the same process of taking lithium out. They have a market value well north of $1 billion, where we're not even $500 million yet. They own 30% of their project. With Lilac earning in, we'll own 75% of our project if that goes well. So there's a real here and now value opportunity. But on top of that, essentially we've de-risked it from the debt side, from the equity side, from the perception of risk around Argentina, the perception of risk around technology. this project's going to happen. And not only that, we're going to be scaling it up to 50,000 tonnes per annum soon after we get into production. That'll make us one of the top 5 producers in the lithium space. We're going to be producing a better quality product with a genuine ESG benefit, not just greenwashing. And furthermore, we're going to be an independent producer, not ponied up with somebody in the industry at the moment. So they're pretty compelling metrics, quite apart from the fact that this is going to be throwing off at least 200 million US free cash flow after debt servicing on an annualized basis. So that's some pretty compelling numbers to get involved now before this thing really takes off.
Well, Stephen, over the last couple of years while we've been talking, since I first met you, each time we talk, you keep moving this project along. You've produced the results that have been backed up, and now, once again, of course, you're, telling us something that is groundbreaking. The whole project is groundbreaking in many ways, and is meeting so many of those objectives. I hope you're going to come back in a couple months and give us a further update. I can hardly wait.
Look, this is disruptive what we're doing, but it's a way of the future. With the demand of both the growth in electric vehicles and batteries, we need more supply. And we're not just talking a couple of times. We're talking 8, 10, 15 times more production. That production has to be higher quality going forward. Otherwise, it's got to get reprocessed. And particularly if we look at the EU, that driver behind better ESG outcomes, we're going to hear more and more of that. So that's why we've been at the vanguard here around this new climate technology. And I'm very keen to come back with more news as to develop this project and then perhaps talk about the next one as well. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time today.